Welcome back to Screen Rant. My name is Isaac, and of course, this is my editor, Angus. We work for Screen Rant, but were recently demoted for hiring interns to teach us how to crank in Fortnite. Now we're in charge of the comment response division, where today we're looking at your answers to the question, if you could change one movie moment, what would it be? All right, let's jump in. Milking Cow Surprise says, would have made Ares shave his mustache before revealing himself in the end of Wonder Woman. You mean you're not threatened by a guy who looks like a supporting character in Wallace and Gromit? Huh. Jay says, Ratatouille. The chefs can hear the rat, and the rat talks dirty. We actually ran this exact idea by Pixar in 2007, but we were quickly escorted off the premises, and now we're on a government watch list. Sorrow says, John Hammond paid Dennis Nedry a living wage, then Dennis did not resort to corporate espionage for money, releasing the dinosaurs in the process. Dinosaurs remain contained. John has a pleasant weekend with his grandchildren, Alan, Ellie, and Malcolm. Gennaro signs off on the park. Jurassic Park ends up being a success and turns from being a survival/action movie into a fun, upbeat 90s fantasy movie about anything being possible if you follow your dream. This is a fantastic comment that shows not only a knowledge of the movie's events, but a deep understanding of what it was trying to say. Now, Angus and I are not intellectuals by any stretch, but if you'll allow us to put on our analyst hats for just a moment, we want to deep dive into Jurassic Park as a critique of capitalism, just like Sorrow is suggesting. Firstly, as laid out in the comment, some of Nedry's dialogue suggests that he is being underpaid by Hammond.
Don't get cheap on me, Dodson. That was Hammond's mistake.
But the movie's criticism goes far deeper than that. The park itself is an extremely flawed concept, and the movie points that out at every turn. Not only are there flaws in Nedry's security system and how vulnerable it is to attack, but even beyond that, Hammond and his team created something very dangerous in the pursuit of profit. Why include carnivorous dinosaurs? Probably because people would want to see a T-Rex. Let's be honest, who wouldn't? And would be more likely to attend the park as a result. Or, as Ian Malcolm more succinctly puts it,
your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
And we may sympathize with Hammond's motivation to leave something behind for his grandchildren, or like him because he's just a cute old man. But ultimately, like most well-intentioned entrepreneurs, his work is co-opted by vultures who only care about profit. And his workers end up paying the price. After all, every single character in this movie who is eaten by a dinosaur is an employee of the park. Jurassic Park is an extremely entertaining adventure movie, but this comment reminded us that it is a lot smarter than we might give it credit for.
Clever girl.
Blue Raccoon 10 says, the Thomas and Magic Railroad Director's Cut release. We're with you, Blue. Release the, Alcroft cut? Kyle says, Captain America should have either sacrificed himself in battle alongside Tony, or else had an end similar to Frodo, where he realized he couldn't just go back to where he's from, like he did in the movie. It frustrates me to no end that he just goes back, as if his entire arc and story meant nothing. I don't know, I think we have to say that we completely agree. That's not to say that we didn't like the ending that we got. In fact, Angus was a huge Captain America fan in high school, and I did witness in the theater he may have shed some tears during the final scene. But after thinking about Endgame more, Angus and I ended up discussing this exact thing. As pointed out by Film Crit Hulk, Endgame can't help but highlighting how little character development Cap has undergone in Phase 2 and 3. This ending could have happened after Captain America: The First Avenger and made just as much sense. To be clear, Captain America goes through a lot in Phase 2 and 3, but ultimately his character doesn't change that much. He's always the Captain America we know and love, because the movies need him to stay the same. So when Endgame looks for a satisfying conclusion to his character arc, they can't help but go back to the well and borrow from the first Avenger. They just set him back up with Peggy like you wanted in 1945. Even when, as Summer Barbeau points out in her piece, The Silence of Peggy Carter, Peggy pushed Steve to move on with his own life.
I have lived a life. My only regret is that you didn't get to live yours.
And as Kyle points out in his original comment, the film makes it all too easy. Cap is able to go home again with no consequences, even though that's very hard to do in real life. So, while we admire the execution of the scene, we have to admit that Kyle is right. It might work for James Bond, but Captain America should not be allowed to live twice.
I'm happy for you.
P-Wafer says, I'd tie everyone's shoes together, so everyone just trips. Okay, a little confused here, but I think we get your idea. We would only like to suggest your first target be the filmography of Tom Cruise. Stop. This is a John Wick spoiler checkpoint. Skip to this time code if you don't want John Wick spoiled. But honestly, it's you haven't seen John Wick yet? All right, Caleb says, when Winston shoots John at the end of John Wick 3. Okay, we're actually glad someone brought this up. We feel exactly the same way. The first John Wick was a great movie. It was funny, the action was great, and the movie hinted at a larger world of assassins that was fascinating and fun. But in addition to all those things, John Wick was a self-contained story about soldiering on in the face of grief. The movie starts with John grieving his wife, and it ends with him deciding to move on and live, just like she would have wanted him to. It's an absurd movie about dog revenge, but the story has a beginning, a middle, and a definitive end. With the sequels, everything great about the original movie has been upped in scale. The jokes are funnier, the action is better, and the world building has been greatly expanded. The key difference, though, is that behind the scenes, no one had any idea that the first John Wick would be a hit. It was a low-budget movie that came out of nowhere and found unexpected success. By contrast, the sequels are attempting to establish and maintain a franchise, and as a result, twist the story to avoid a satisfying conclusion. Both Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 end on frustrating cliffhangers, and both arrive there through a character doing something they would otherwise never do. Okay, we'll explain. At the end of Chapter 2, John is being betrayed by a crime lord named D'Antonio. John chases D'Antonio into the Continental, an assassin hotel featured in all 3 films, where violence is strictly banned. John knows this rule, and throughout the 3 films, treats the hotel with fear and respect. D'Antonio taunts John and tells him he will stay in the Continental forever. In a fit of rage, John shoots D'Antonio in the middle of the hotel, setting up a sequel where he is excommunicated by hotel management and the entire network of assassins is after him. Now, we're no screenwriting experts, but to me, it makes no sense that John would do this. He should know that the consequences of being excommunicated would be much worse than anything D'Antonio could do to him, which brings us to part 3. By the end of the movie, John has proved his loyalty to Winston, the head of the Continental, and the two have teamed up to fight against the mysterious and powerful organization known as the High Table. John, Winston, and Sharon, the Continental concierge, team up to defend the hotel. After the battle, the High Table makes a peace offering to Winston, and without hesitation, Winston shoots John and pushes him off a building. John survives, no surprise there, and in his final line, he swears revenge against Winston. So, what's the problem with this? First of all, throughout the films, Winston and Sharon are shown to have the utmost respect for John.
It is a pleasure having you with us again.
Even when they are on the opposing side of a conflict, it is clear they're just following the rules and are always reluctant to hurt him. Not only does Winston's final choice betray the trust the audience has invested in the movie, it sets the story back to the end of part 2.
Well played, sir.
Both movies end with John at war with the Continental, and not much more has changed. So in trying to create an epic saga with multiple chapters, the John Wick series makes 2 of its movies feel completely inconsequential. So in short, Caleb, we couldn't agree more. Or, as Lawrence Fishburne puts it,
I'm really pissed off.
Futuristically says, Titanic, Rose moves her ass over. That door had room. Okay, that's fair, but it's been pointed out a lot of times over the last 20 years. Couldn't we come up with a better solution? Let's see if we can find one. Here we go. Brian says, you have to make that door in Titanic smaller so people can't complain that Jack could have fit. Well, that's better. Cito says, the rise of Skywalker would have put Anakin's ghost to fight Palpatine. I mean, it couldn't have been worse than what we got. We find it disappointing that the Disney era of Star Wars has failed to escape the shadow of the original trilogy. Don't get us wrong, we totally understand wanting to see your favorite childhood characters again, and we love the well-placed cameo as much as anybody. But as the sequel trilogy came to a close, we couldn't help but feel that the filmmakers had prioritized serving the past more than the future. Now, we want to make it clear that we're speaking only for ourselves here, and again, we're no film critics, but while it might be an unpopular opinion, we think it was a mistake to retcon The Last Jedi's explanation of who Rey's parents are. We know it disappointed a lot of fans, and we understand the frustration, especially when the explanation the movie comes up with seems so simple. But we like that simplicity. So much of Star Wars is based around the inner workings of one specific family, and it makes what's supposed to be a massive universe feel very, very small. So, Rise of Skywalker going out of its way to confirm that Rey is a part of a different special family, instead of just a regular person, feels weird. Should the message of Star Wars really be that you are special because you were born into a special family? Or should it be that you are special because of what you choose to do? To quote the Lego Movie,
Because you are the special. And so am I. And so is everyone.
in working so hard to correct the perceived mistakes of The Last Jedi, the writers of Rise of Skywalker undid all the things that movie got right. So while it was cool to hear all the Jedis talk to Rey at the end of the film, and it might have been awesome to see an Anakin Force Ghost, this movie's focus on old characters ended up underserving Rey, the character this trilogy should have been about in the first place. Joe says, that time I didn't show up at your mom's house, I should have. This epic burn reminds me of my days on the playground again, when kids would pick on me by pitching me alternate movie endings.
Hey Isaac, remember the end of The Godfather? How about instead of Michael following in his father's footsteps and taking the reins of a criminal empire, I just take your lunch money?
The memories. Finally, we want to look at a trend in some of the comments here. 7020 says, the couple from Up was able to take the trip together before she fell ill. Emma says, in The Outsiders, spoiler alert, I would make sure that Johnny and Dally didn't die. Pupmaster says, let a side character snap instead of Tony like a random sorcerer, Asgardian, or anyone else. Again, we're not experts in anything here, but we wanted to make a plea to anyone who wrote a comment like this. Let yourself be sad. We know being sad sucks, but if something happened to a character in a movie and it made you sad, we think that's beautiful. I mean, we wanted the couple from Up to live a happy life together, and for Iron Man to survive, and for The Outsiders to remain a happy family, but if those things had happened, then those movies would not have been that good. There's some great movies where nothing too sad happens, but for the most part, movies know that sadness is just a part of life. And even in fun fantasy movies, they will work better if they have real stakes and emotion. And hey, maybe understanding these emotions within yourself will help you deal with sad things in your own life. It's definitely helped me and Angus. He still cries whenever someone mentions Old Yeller, and that's okay. Anyway, let's look at this last comment here. Dragon's Dungeon says, I'd bring back Old Yeller, aww, so that I can shoot him again. Are you happy? Look what you've done to Angus. Also, this is not the first time you guys have mentioned shooting Old Yeller.
Kim says, I always laugh when they shoot Old Yeller.
Just stop. Stop trying to shoot Old Yeller again. Alright, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see your comment featured in the next video, just head on over to the Screen Rant YouTube channel and click on the community tab. That is where we post our weekly questions. And if you want a good laugh, watch the end of Old Yeller, apparently. And remember to like and subscribe to Screen Rant for more Dennis Nedry analysis. Bye.
Bruh.